What's up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. And that is right. The attitude is not as excited as the Indiana Pacers fall in Game 3, 106 to 100 in Facci. This is just a devastating loss. Look, the Indiana Pacers, they gave this game away. They should have won this game. They had a 10-point lead heading into the fourth quarter and got absolutely dismantled by Karl Anthony Towns in the fourth quarter, and they completely quit playing their game. So, a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into, but 106-100 final score had a chance there at the end still to make magic happen, but for the first time in these playoffs, can't pull it out in the clutch.
It's disappointing. It is. It's upsetting. I think that when you want to really think of yourselves as, hey, we could win an NBA championship, what better opportunity is there ever going to be to have a 20-point lead at home in a series when you're up 2 games to nothing? This was it. And I hope that you don't look back on this for you saying and say that was the game that everything collapsed or fell through. I would rather get blown out just to say, hey, you
Yeah.
know what? Maybe it just wasn't our night than to have things unfold the way they did. I think that you couldn't have asked for a better situation with the Knicks struggling through about 3 quarters, but the Knicks had a more of a sense of urgency. I would say their season was technically, no, it wasn't on the line, but they treated it that way, and it made a difference, and it showed in that fourth quarter.
For the first time in this series and probably all playoffs long, Rick Carlisle was out coached tonight. And I know people are going to be like, this is a hot take, but here's the reason why he was out coached. Tom Thibodeau, his hands were tied. He had to
Big time.
play a deeper bench. He
Hmm.
decided he was not going to play Cameron Payne, who he played in the first 2 games. He went with DeLon Wright. He went with Landry Shamet, Miles McBride, Carl Towns, and Josh Hart. And then there was a rotation of different guys going in and out. But for the most part, there was no Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson was a minus 10 before he went back into the game. The
Hmm.
Pacers were able to do much more on the offensive side when Jalen Brunson was in the game.
That's
When
true.
he was out, the Knicks had a better defensive lineup out there.
They did.
And Rick Carlisle, in my personal opinion, got too cute sometimes with who he was playing there in those closing moments. In the fourth quarter, in the third quarter, Aaron Nesmith goes out with about 6 minutes left in the quarter, has a pretty bad ankle sprain. He leaves the game, ends up coming back into the game in the fourth. But during that stretch, it felt like the Pacers got a little deflated.
They
And when you
did.
think about the lineup decisions, Ben Mathurin was your 10th man tonight, basically. Tony Bradley played almost 16 minutes in this game. Rick Carlisle played Tony Bradley about 6 minutes too long.
Yeah.
And I think that is we were praising Rick for playing Tony Bradley for the 8 minutes that he played in game two. I think anywhere from 8 to 10 is serviceable. But Obi Toppin is a plus 19 in this game.
Doesn't
Does
see the
not
fourth quarter.
play, does not play with Siakam as a small ball, five, and do what they've done all season long. They don't counter what the Knicks were doing. And I just felt like in this moment that TJ McConnell, Ben Shepherd, Ben Mathurin, Tony Bradley, Siakam lineup was ridiculous. They should not have played it as much as they did. And when they called a timeout, they come back out with the exact same lineup. They get scored on, commit a foul, and all of a sudden now Nemhard and Halliburton come into the game when you're only up by two. And I just felt like at that moment, Rick got a little bit too comfortable with the guys he had in there and trusted them a little bit too long.
Yeah, look, Carlos done a great job throughout the playoffs. Tonight wasn't his night. He won some big challenges. Once again, he's done fantastic on the winning challenges side of things. But
He needed a third because the Siakam one was a clean block.
that was tough. That was really tough. That was clean. And I'm not gonna argue and say, oh, the refs this, the refs that, because the Pacers got a lot of good calls tonight. They really did. They were on the good side of the whistle for a long time. I know fans are always gonna be mad, saying, what about this call? What about that? There's always gonna be some of those. However, just to put things in perspective, when Aaron Nesmith went down, there was 6 minutes and 6 seconds left in the third quarter when he rolled his ankle. The Pacers were up 70 to 57. He returns with 7:03 remaining in the fourth quarter, and the Pacers trailed 89 to 88. I just feel like it sucked a bit of momentum out of this team. The Knicks were able to start to kind of get things together for a while, and I just felt like Indiana never was able to. In the first half, it was defense leading to offense. They had 14 points in transition. They were really forcing turnovers, And then everything just kind of went stale. In the second half, 2 points in transition. Just the Pacers bench got outscored by the Knicks bench in the second half. I just felt like what worked well in the beginning of the game just slowly started to just go away, and the Pacers never were able to get into a rhythm offensively in that fourth quarter. It felt like most of the time 18 seconds were coming off the shot clock. If anything, to before they're like, all right, now we got to make a move. And that's not Pacer basketball. You look at a guy like Halliburton. I know we'll get into him in specific, but 7 assists, 3 turnovers. That says a lot about the flow of this offense on a night where he was dealing with it. Bridges was all over him defensively. The Pacers just didn't play Pacer basketball in the second half.
Yeah, I mean they played Pacer basketball for about 30 minutes.
Yep.
They were up 16 in the third quarter. Like they got that lead and they extended it. I felt like they kind of closed the second half a little bit poorly, or
They
the
did.
second quarter a little bit poorly, because
20
they got
point
up
lead
20 points.
dwindled down to 13. And
Yep.
I know I remember right when it happened, I think the Knicks cut down to 13. And I think it was Reggie Miller. Someone was like, wow, that's huge for the Knicks to only be down 13. Charles Barkley says, this one's over. I could not believe he said that on the broadcast. He's like, what are you talking about? This one's over. Both of these teams have had heroic, incredible comebacks in the playoffs. I knew this game was not over, but yes, the few minutes at the end of the second quarter really pumped life back into the Knicks. Even if the lead ended up going back up, that kept them afloat.
Yeah, I feel like Indiana, like they got a little comfortable there once they got the lead up to
They
16
did.
in the third quarter. And we've
Yeah.
seen this Pacers team all season long get to this point where they don't play well with with the lead. They always play bad when they have a lead. They get a little too comfortable. Even when they were up by 41 points on the Cavaliers, they
Yep.
got completely outscored and they only ended up winning the game by like 20 in
Yep.
the second half against Cleveland in game 4. Now, obviously they got a big lead there, but I just felt like in this moment, like like you talk about it, too many possessions where it was in the shot clock,
Yep.
isolation. I don't know how many times we saw this team drive and kick, drive and
That's
kick,
all it was.
drive and kick, and then they were shooting outside shots or shooting tough contested jumpers. Nothing at the rim. The 3-point shots didn't really look great, and they were just 5 of 25 from three. We
Just
know when the Pacers only make 5 of their 25 3-pointers, they're not going to win those games. They just don't ever do that. So they should have won in spite of that, and they missed 6 free throws tonight. I don't know how many times I felt like, why are they not connecting on these free throws? The Knicks hit all theirs. I think the Knicks missed 3 early on, but for the most part, they hit all their clutch free throws. Like Josh Hart in the clutch walks up and hits his free throws. So it was a little bit of a flip of the script from what happened in game one, a little bit. Not that dramatic, obviously, but it was just to the point where Karl Anthony Towns had 4 points heading into the fourth quarter. He had 20 points in the fourth quarter. And the Pacers' defensive adjustment was, we'll keep Miles on him. And that's all we're going to do. Miles Turner is not quick enough to guard
no.
Karl Anthony Towns. And when you look at the lineup that was out there was non-shooters out there for the Knicks, and the Pacers did nothing to make those looks even look more difficult for Towns. He was just driving relentlessly to the basket. And thankfully, they called a travel on one that wasn't a travel.
I
So
know.
I'm
That's what
just,
I'm saying. That's why I'm not going to blame the
no,
Siakam
the officials did
block.
not have
Like
any reason.
it happens. It
The
just
Pacers had more free throws in this
yes.
game.
Yep.
It was not the officials that caused the Pacers the game. It was
No.
the Pacers' inability to play Pacers basketball in the second half. And they know that, but I'm curious to see how they respond because now they have lost every game 3 in the playoffs, Facci. And they bounced back every time, but
Mhm.
it was after blowouts.
Yep.
They didn't get blown out in this game. They gave this one away. They choked this one away. They should be up 3-0 right now. And that's why I'm disgusted with the result of this game because they should be up 3 games to nothing. They should not have lost this game.
I don't think you could have ever asked for a better opportunity to go up 3-0. I don't think you could have. And I think in that fourth quarter, I was just watching a slow, painful death of just Karl Anthony Towns catching fire and just Indiana having no answer for it. And on a night where Jalen Brunson doesn't have it, he didn't have it offensively. The Knicks were winning the minutes when Brunson was off the court. It was just they were spreading the ball around and just guys were finding an opportunity. Whether it was Towns just shouldering the load himself, Deuce McBride stepped up. He was making big shots. It's just in the first half, Indiana was being aggressive, fighting for rebounds, fighting in the paint. It was leading to fouls being called on the Knicks. Deuce picked up 3 fouls in his first minute of the game.
Yep.
I mean, I was like, oh my God, we might not see him for the rest of this half. Then you had Towns in foul trouble. Brunson was in foul trouble, and you didn't capitalize. I felt like the Knicks were going to have to play scared, and they just did enough to kind of stay afloat in this game until Towns was able to take over. But it's just, even Siakam. Siakam's coming off of a 39-point game. Why don't you make more of an effort to get him into a rhythm? Siakam had 9 points going into the fourth quarter after having 16 in the first quarter of last game. I just feel like, how do you not go back to him a little bit more often? So, your guys that you really count on, I just felt like tonight just never got it going. And maybe that's a credit to the Knicks of just like defensively, they were really locked in. Bridges kind of cutting the head of the snake off, as you could say, for Tyrese Halliburton. And you could look on paper and see Halliburton, well, he had 20 points. Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. There was just, maybe it's the 20 points, but not getting everyone else as involved as previous games. But the Pacers, this was just one that they let slip through their hands. And I'm with you. I already said it. I would have rather have gotten blown off and dusted ourselves off and said, you know what? Maybe that's a fluke instead of right now. The Knicks probably feel like they're the team of destiny that just came back from 20 down with the season on the line. Hey, why can't they do it again? I really hope they can't. I just want to see how this Pacers team responds.
What's frustrating to me is the fact that the Knicks should have been the more desperate team early on, and they were not
Absolutely.
desperate at all.
Nope.
They looked like a team that was beat up. They were defeated. They did not look like a team that wanted to win this game. Even if you go back and look at how the quarter ended in the third quarter, you thought for a second, "Oh my God, it's with an eight, right?"
Yeah.
Then the Pacers, because Mathurin comes up, sets a stupid screen, isn't even set, just kind of lowers his shoulder, trying to make a lot of contact. Knicks get the ball, they go score baskets, an 8 point game, and all of a sudden you're thinking, "Oh my God, this is danger territory." And then the very next play, Mathurin has a very great play where he finds Miles Turner wide open for a
Great
dunk.
assist. Great
It was a
assist.
great assist, and then the Knicks had a chance to cut it to 7 with a 3 point shot by McBride, and he missed it. So you feel like there's a little bit of momentum for the Pacers, at least going into the fourth quarter with a 10 point lead. A 10 point lead going into the fourth quarter, and they just gave it away in a minute. I mean, it was
First,
gone. It
first time the
evaporated.
Pacers lost when having a lead going to the fourth. They were undefeated when having a lead going into the fourth in
Yeah.
the playoffs. This is just, it's not like them. I don't want to say that the sky is falling this or that or anything like this. This is a bad loss. It's a bad loss. I am very disappointed. We do still have a lead, and I do think we have a really good team. And look, I know I'm cutting you off over here. The one thing I'm going to say is this. If I have to trade a loss for a healthy Aaron Nesmith, that's the only way I can look at this. The only way I can go to sleep tonight is saying that Aaron Nesmith returned to the court
Yeah.
because I thought if he goes down and he doesn't come back, we might lose this series. Now, is he running off of adrenaline right now, and maybe his ankle could swell up? It's very possible, but that is the only bright side I could even shed light on at this moment is that Aaron Nesmith came back. That's all I got for you.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at the bright side, like I know we're being kind of doom and gloom because they lost this
Sure,
game, but like, yeah, I mean, I think the bright side for me is like what I've already said is they should have won this game. They
sure,
have been, to me, the better team the last two games.
yeah,
I would say game one, they were the better team in the final 6 minutes. Okay.
definitely.
It was back and forth a lot. The Knicks got up 17. Pacers had a fluke comeback. So if you want to say, like, okay, take away the fluky comeback the Pacers had, like it's been never been done in history, and then you give this one away, I don't think you say after game three, this series being 2-1 feels that weird. I think the Pacers kind of got their like awesome game where they had this epic comeback. The Knicks just had theirs. Okay. So
Agreed.
now both teams have had one, but the Pacers, they look dominant in game two. I mean, the way they were able to close that one out, I know that the Knicks came back and made it a close one there at the end, but like still, the Pacers going up 10 in that run, playing that well on the road, like they're not afraid of Madison Square Garden. So I'm not overly concerned. My only concern is now you had the Knicks at a spot where you could take the life out of them. And
Oh,
you gave
easily.
them so much life
They
by
they got a lot.
allowing them to get this win. And so Karl Anthony Towns has not particularly been the biggest, talking point in this series so far. I thought he was really good in game one, struggled in game two, was on the bench. We talked about it. And then in this game, only 4 points up into the fourth quarter. So I think the Pacers had found some ways to make it work. They were doing things that were making him uncomfortable. But then all of a sudden, it's almost like backs against the wall. If you guys don't win this quarter, your season's basically over. And
Yeah.
so the Knicks, they played relentless for the final 12 minutes of this game. And like you mentioned before, they've been down before by 20 points. It's not like this is unfamiliar territory. And now I believe they are 6-1, 5-1 on the road throughout the playoffs. So they have been unbelievable on the road. They have not played as well at home, but the Pacers have been really good at home aside from the two game threes they've lost. So I think that Indiana, they're going to bounce back. They're going to play better in game four. I have no doubt about that because this team has responded every time they've lost a playoff game with a much, much better performance. But the point about Aaron Nesmith, it is a little worrisome because he did come back into the game, but from what I saw from him, I thought defensively he looked okay. But when he was wanting, like, when they put the ball in his hands to kind of score late in the shot clock, it looked like he wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Andrew Nemhard looked like he wanted nothing to do with shooting
I
a
agree with
three-point
that.
shot either. It was like, okay, relying on Miles Turner. And Miles Turner made every single one of his 2-point shots, missed every single one of his 3-point shots except for one.
Yeah, and a couple things on that. First, to go to like with Nemhard, Neesmith not really wanting, I felt like there was this like shot clock's kind of starting to wind down, and they're looking at Tyrese like, what do you want to do? Like, like one of those like, hey Tyrese, like, what are we doing over here? And I just felt like Tyrese was like, I can't get free right now. Like Bridges was swarmed all over him, and they just had no type of offense. As crazy as it is, Turner actually had a shot to be able to give the Pacers the lead when they were down two, and he shot that three. That three was like in and out, like it rimmed out. It was close. And obviously Turner would have been a hero, and we're not putting anything on him like that. The Pacers just the fact that they still had a shot. And if they hit that, I would have been like, man, there is no stopping this team. I don't want to be so negative because this is the first close game I could remember the Pacers losing in maybe since the Lakers game. Is it
Yeah,
possible? Has it been that long?
yeah,
It's like they have grinded out every single close game. Hey, they were due. They were due for a loss. But I know you said Pacers are good at home. They're better on the road. How
they
crazy
have
is
been.
that?
So have the
They
Knicks.
they are undefeated on the road in the playoffs. All three losses have come home for the Pacers in game three.
They did lose game three to the Bucks on the road.
Okay. Well, then it's just all game three. So okay. So they
Six
lost.
and
They
one on
lost
the road.
earlier.
Six
Yeah,
and one.
you're right. You're right. So yeah, they're still better on the road, and that doesn't make much sense because the Pacers are a really good home team. And if you can split, and that's what we talked about, you're not gonna sweep a team. No one's getting swept this far in the playoffs when there's no like undisputedly better team. So I've always said if you can split at home, great. I just thought maybe they'd win game three. But what I will say is this. It's really hard to beat a team three straight times,
Oh
especially
yeah.
if that's trailing. We saw what Minnesota just did to OKC, backs against the wall. They just blew them out of the water.
Mm.
So the Knicks were gonna get at least one. They were gonna get maybe two. We both said Knicks in six. I mean, whoa. We both said Pacers in
Yeah, don't
six.
put that in
It's
my
late.
mouth.
It's almost 1 a.m. We both said Pacers in six. I still ain't ready to, change anything. We can keep it. But if the Pacers want to get this done in five, I'm down. And I'll tell you one thing. I feel disgusted with myself. I feel like I gotta wipe this clown makeup off. Man, I've been looking at flights. I've been looking at flights to the NBA Finals. I've been looking at hotels. I was getting carried away. Really saying like, I can't believe this. We did this. We contacted my mother-in-law and said, "Do you think you'd be able to come down maybe potentially this week? I might go down to Indiana." And here we are, all of a sudden we lose this game and now I'm like, "Hey, mother-in-law, just forget I even said anything. All right? We got to take care of business before I ever have dreams of going to an NBA Finals."
Yeah, I mean, this is a classic playoff game, Facci. This is a game where you're just scratching your head saying, "What in the heck happened?" Because
I'm stunned,
they
disappointed.
quit playing Pacers basketball for
Yeah,
18 minutes, and that's all it took. I mean, I would be shocked if the Knicks get in foul trouble like they were in tonight
it's
again
not
this
going to
series.
happen.
It's
Nope.
not going to
Nope.
happen, and I felt like Indiana, they got too stagnant. You talked about it, but they
Yep.
just got too stagnant. They just played stupid basketball. They played slow it down, New York Knicks style basketball. And I was laughing because if you remember the halftime show, Charles Barkley said the Knicks are going to have to play fast, but they can't play fast because if they do that, then the Pacers are going to keep, play fast, and that's the benefit to them. They slowed the game down. They played half court offense.
Yep.
And what happened? Karl Anthony Towns was able just to barbecue chicken everybody.
Hmm.
And then once the Pacers slowly started making adjustments, then you see the Deuce McBride hitting the threes and the people like that getting going. Then Jalen Brunson really doesn't have to even come in until like 2 minutes left in the game,
I,
and
that
he's
was
been
crazy.
rested. And they don't. And the thing is, with those guys being in foul trouble in the first half, they had more energy at the end of the second half, and I
True.
think that
That's a
played a
valid
huge
point.
factor as well. The
That is
fact
true.
that the Pacers did not get a chance to kind of wear them down. The wear down effect wasn't as impactful because he played a 9-man rotation. I don't think Tibbs really wants to play a 9-man
I don't
rotation.
think he
Okay,
does either.
it was by it was by force. It was not by choice, and so he was like, "I am screwed. I've got so many guys in foul trouble. What am I going to do?" I think tonight, no doubt about it, Rick Carlisle overthought some of this stuff that he did, and so
Absolutely.
I give him props for what he's done already throughout this playoff series. I've been very quick to give him praise, but I feel like it's fair to be quick to give him criticism as well when it's due. Ben Shepherd, very good player in the role that he's in, but let's not overexert his minutes. Let's not overplay him, overexert him. Ben Matherin, Facci,
I
is
haven't
he
seen anything.
playable
I haven't seen anything from him. I have not seen the best Ben Mathurin moment all playoff series was the assist that we just talked about. The demonstrator. It was an assist. I mean that
in
was
this
it.
series? Yes.
Yes, in this series. He's obviously had good games against Cleveland, but it's like he has not had any type of moments. And sure, you could play devil's advocate and say, okay, how much opportunities he been given? He hasn't made the most of the opportunities that he's been given. I feel like there has not been times where Matherin's just like getting the free throw line consistently or like putting that pressure on the defense where he's like, all right, hey, Matherin's now hit like back to back buckets or anything like that. He just has not been who we hoped he would be. And we talked about Obi Toppin. He was a plus 19. You don't see him in the fourth quarter. Okay. TJ McConnell had moments. TJ McConnell had moments where he was getting it going. Like McConnell barely even plays in the second half.
He
And
led the team in scoring at halftime.
yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like he had 10 at halftime. I think he played 5 minutes for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So I just feel like Carlisle went away from that, and it was Ben Shepherd that really got big minutes in the second half. And we've now seen that a couple times. Maybe part of it was probably also because Neesmith went down. So I
Yeah.
feel like they try to have, who can be, a similar type of role where you're not going to like fall off defensively. But it's very unfortunate because I do feel like Neesmith, you don't want to, not to say overvalue him, but like I quickly realized when Neesmith went down, it was like the Pacers would stand no chance at doing anything long term for this season if Aaron Neesmith is not out there because you saw a 15-point lead of no, sorry, it was a 13-point lead become a 1 point deficit by the time he came back. That's a 14-point swing
Hmm.
in I guess close to about a quarter of play. And it was upsetting to see. I'm glad that he's back. I don't know what his status will be for next game. We can't just say that he'll be out there, but let's put this out. Oh my God, this is bad. This is bad. Let's just throw this out there. So it didn't affect the Pacers, but he missed a quarter of play, Aaron E. Smith. He led the Pacers in rebounding with 7. No one else had more than 4. No
They
one else
still
had.
won the rebounding battle though.
Yes, they did. They did. And that's why I'm saying it didn't like completely hurt them, but like at least like, Karl Anthony Towns, he's out there. He had 15 boards. Josh Hart had 10 rebounds, and a couple of them were big rebounds, especially towards the end. The Pacers are just like, who's your rebounder? I mean, it's just everybody giving you 3 or 4. It didn't hurt us tonight, but at one point in this series, it will. It will. It wasn't tonight.
It's because they missed shots in the fourth quarter. That's why the rebounding battle looks like so different. They out rebounded the Pacers 13-7 in the fourth quarter, but they outscored them 36-20
I
in the
mean,
fourth. The Pacers are not
42
a team
points
that wins
in the second
scoring.
half. Pretty
I
yeah.
know the Pacers do not win games when they score 100 points.
Never,
They
never. I'd like to see what their record is when they scored 100 points. I would like to imagine they have a couple of wins, and I'm talking about over an 82 game season.
if
That is
that
not a recipe for Pacer basketball. I can imagine maybe what 2? I don't know. Well, what's a story for another day?
if they even
Not
had
good.
to. I mean,
Yeah,
here's the thing. You held the Knicks to 106 points. They were good defensively. They were good on the glass. I mean, they did a good job team rebounding. I don't really care about who leads the team in rebounding. I care about who wins the rebounding battle and who's getting the offensive rebounds, right? Because to me, that's what is the most important thing to look at is offensive rebounds. Are the Knicks getting multiple offensive rebounds here to just completely annihilate Indiana and get second chances? No, that's not what happened in this game. But what is so frustrating to me is just the fact that there's just such a breakdown on both sides of the court in that fourth quarter. And so we haven't really had a chance to complain about this too much because the Pacers have spoiled us. They've been playing great basketball. So I think we do owe them the benefit of the doubt to say, you know what, like you said about 10 minutes ago, they were due for a tough loss. It's been pretty, you know, it's pretty been pretty smooth.
Been pretty magical. I
It's
mean,
smooth sailing.
even when they're down so much, we've just been like, well, they'll come back. That's what they always do. And
Yeah.
we only have so many comebacks, and Indiana already has four comebacks by 17 or more
The
in
odds are like insane. They
they're
shouldn't have had that many.
defying. They're defying what's even possible. So yes, we lost tonight. No, you don't need to fire anyone. You don't need to make any trades or anything of the sort.
What? I don't think
I'm just
anybody's
saying.
saying that.
Yeah, I
I
know
mean,
no one's saying that. I'm just saying the sky's not falling. Like there's we don't need to do anything. I saw when the Knicks lost, it was fire Tibbs. This cat doesn't fit this team. I saw it all. I'm surrounded by Knicks fans where I am. I looked it up. The Pacers don't even have a single win
that's what I was gonna say.
with less than 104 points. That's
Yeah.
their lowest on the season that they have. So you score 100 points, you ain't beating no one with this team. You got to be in that 115, 100, 110, 115, somewhere in there. Things slow down when it gets to the playoffs, but I just feel like even against Cleveland, you were putting up big numbers. You really were. Even against Milwaukee, you were doing that. Game one, huge. You saw it go down to 114 points in game two, and it's 100. Now it's like you might need to, if you're going to play uglier basketball, it doesn't favor the Pacers. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too that the Knicks made a certain lineup change, put Mitchell Robinson in for Josh Hart. We talked about that a little bit on the preview podcast, but for the majority of it, like I don't think it really made that much of a difference.
I don't
I
think
know
so.
that some people are like, "Oh, it was a big deal." I don't think it was that big of a deal.
Nah.
I think Indiana was able to figure out ways to make that, score on it. But I felt like they just missed a lot of good looks early on. The Pacers had the looks they wanted. They just couldn't get their shots to fall. And they could have been up by probably 30 points if they would have just hit those shots early on because it was a slow start, Facci. I mean, I'm sure you remember it was just like
Oh yeah.
a slow crawl to get to where they wanted to get to. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like they're getting the looks. I like the process of the offense, but I didn't like the process of the offense in the second half. But in that first half, I really did like it, especially with how they started out. But let me ask you this: if Karl Anthony Towns is going to be guarding Pascal Siakam, a guy that just scored 39 points in game two, how do you not go to that more often? How do you not get Pascal the ball more when you see him with probably the worst post defender on the Knicks
Yeah.
guarding him? I know Towns is bigger, but still, like,
Size ain't everything.
no.
It's just I feel like it was a wasted opportunity. The Pacers did not get Siakam the ball enough. They didn't. I said it earlier. I'm gonna say it again now. We saw what happened when Siakam is really in a rhythm, and that's what it was in game two. To go from a guy who had a playoff career high 39 points to just having 9 points going into the fourth quarter. I'm sorry, that should have been more of a priority coming out of halftime. And
Yeah.
maybe that's because the Pacers had the lead. Maybe it wasn't like really a sense of urgency over there, but it should be in game four to get Siakam going because Siakam was basically making Towns unplayable in game two. And I feel like the Pacers didn't take advantage of it at all in this game.
If the Pacers had been just up by about 6 points going into the third quarter, they win this game because they're laser focused. The
Yeah.
problem is they were too worried about getting Brunson and Cat into foul trouble. They were too worried about trying to hunt mismatches, and they didn't play Pacers basketball. So, you know, it's one of those games where we kind of expected, you know, is it too good to be true? Can you really believe they're going to go up 3 games to 0 in a series where they only have to win one more to get to the NBA Finals? Like, this is the biggest stage of them all.
It's
You're on
big.
your home court, home floor. Indy 500 was just, done today.
Saw the
Alex
record when that
Pillow,
happens. That ain't good.
no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about, oh, the month of May is racers and pacers. Let's have them, but let's have them on different days, okay? 0 and 4, Facci, when the race is on the same day as the game. I think that's a bigger curse than the Facci curse. Larger sample size.
Oh man, that's
That's the new curse we have.
Hey, look, that could be the new curse. All right, I've been dying to get rid of this curse, and I'm glad I kicked it to the
Hey, it's
curb.
buried, brother.
I left it in the garden, man. So, yeah. So it's there's room for another curse, but man, I don't know when we're gonna snap that one. So, it's unfortunate, maybe a little bit too much excitement, but at the same point, like that home crowd deserved better. They did. The
Yeah,
crowd seemed like it was rocking. I saw Terry Crews in the building. Love me some Terry Crews. I was like, all right, cool, this is awesome. But I did also hear on TV. I did see this. I saw a bunch of Knicks fans chanting Knicks at six. Did you see Knicks fans? Like how many was it like was it what was the level of showing? Because I
I would
told you,
say maybe 10%,
okay, 10%. All right, because I told you
90%
like
Pacer fans,
it felt like it
10%
was
Knicks
less
fans.
than 10 Pacer fans at game one when I was there, but like
Yeah,
I'm sure afterwards, obviously there's not much to cheer about, so you're gonna hear the Knicks cheering, but man,
Knicks fans travel. We
they
know
do
that.
you travel.
I
You
don't know
do.
if you saw what I tweeted or not, but during the national anthem, the singer that was singing, all of a sudden he's about halfway through, and I hear somebody yell, "Knicks in six" during the national anthem. And then I heard it about six more times from different areas throughout the arena during the national anthem. And one guy did it about three times. Finally, there was a Pacer fan that had a hat on, sitting in the front row or the second or third row of the balcony, turns around and throws his hat at the Knicks fan about 10 rows up and says, "Show some respect." And I agree. It is
Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend. It's the national anthem. It's not the time to be screaming Knicks and six. Okay.
Any other second you could do that. Like, hey, everyone can be a fan. Like, come on. Yeah. That's just someone who's trying to like be heard or just be extra like
Yes.
get through the national anthem.
Maybe a little drunk.
Chant, yeah, I'm sure. Chant at any other point, but I hear you on that. Yeah, Knicks fans, I mean, I could tell you, hey, I got berated with text messages afterwards, just like talking about, they're back, they're gonna win in six, this, choke job, this, and all I could say was, hey, you guys wanted it more tonight. Unfortunately, that's what it was. You played with a sense of urgency that we didn't have. I wasn't gonna make any excuses. There's no excuses to make. We gotta be better. You gotta be better. Game four, they have to come up knowing that they blew the most golden opportunity they will ever have in their life. But if you win game four, people will forget very early on. And if you're up 3-1, going back to Madison Square Garden, where, like we've said, you've played not only better on the road, you've played great at MSG the last three times
Yeah.
that you played there. So they're not afraid of Madison Square Garden. They're not afraid of going on the road. But first, let's win one at home. Let's take care of business.
Yeah. I think the Pacers still, to me, are the better team. I think that they proved that so far throughout the three games that I've watched. I hate the way that this game ended because they should have won this game.
Bad,
They should be
bad
up
taste in
3
the
0.
mouth. Yep. Bad taste
There
in the
is
mouth.
no doubt in my mind. You play this game over, 100 times. I say the Pacers probably win 85. They should have
Yeah.
won this game.
Yeah. It's a letdown. It is. But these things are gonna happen. And you know what? Guys, I know it feels rough right now. I'm sure the Knicks probably felt worse losing game one the way
Oh,
they
yes.
did,
It's not even close to
especially
that.
especially for the bounce that Halliburton got. So like, I just want to be like, hey, we want it all. We want it all. We want to sweep. We want to go on and we want to win it all. But it just doesn't happen like that. It's like we're not meant to just sweep a team. If we won this series, I don't want it to come down to seven. But if we just won, great. I'm thrilled. Get it done however you need to get it done. But it would be a monumental letdown if Indiana dropped both games at
Yeah.
home in 3 and 4. To me, that would be something where I would be pushing the panic button and saying, yeah, I think we're in trouble right now. And I don't think that sounds dramatic because we did talk about that no team has ever come back from trailing 2 games to nothing after losing both games one and two. If you lose both 3 and 4 at home, you got a problem.
Yeah, it's a team that loses both games 1 and 2 at home,
Yes.
have not won the series in
Yes.
a 7 game series. But Karl Anthony Towns did say, "We're not here to talk about history. We're here to make history." So that's the bottom line. They're trying to make history, Facci, and they're trying to do something special. But it is what it is. The Pacers just have to be better. I think they will be better. I've seen this team have some tough losses. I've seen them respond, but they gotta realize this is a Knicks team that's right on their level. They're very similar. Every single game has come down to the final few minutes in the fourth quarter. So they are neck and neck with them in terms of talent wise and what they have going for them. But if they don't play Pacers basketball, they're not going to win. So they have to play their style of play. They cannot let the Knicks dictate the pace because when they do that, they're going to lose games. If they try to play New York Knicks basketball, they're going to get beat. They have to play Indiana Pacers basketball. And if they do that, I think they've got this one. So I think we've pretty much covered everything. I'm sure we could
That's
go
just,
more into things if we wanted to get really in the nitty gritty of it all. But now it's just time. This is a pretty much a must win game in game four. I think a lot of people
it is.
kind of feel that way. And we saw how that felt when they were going to play the Cavaliers in game four. They came out with a 80-39 first half. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think that this is one of those things where they have to kind of feel that same pressure they felt of, oh my God, if we lose game four to the Cavs, we're going back to Cleveland tied at 2-2. No, they got to feel that same pressure because all the pressure is on Indiana now. It's not on the Knicks. It's on Indiana to not allow the Knicks to get back into this. So they got to go out there and take care of business in game four, go back to New York with a 3-1 lead, and do what they've done all playoffs long, win it in five. So that's just kind of where I'm at.
This team always thrives off of a good wake up call. They really do, and I think that it consistently humbles them. No, this isn't one of those games where Halliburton had 6 points, and now it's like, all right, hey, he'll be better in this. I need everybody to just be a little bit better, to take it with a sense of urgency. I need the Pacers to pretend that they're down 2 games to nothing or 3 games to one, whatever it may be. They've just always been better as being the hunted. And even seeing them being favored by 1.5 points in this game is something that I don't want anything to go to their head. You got to treat everything like it's game seven. And I think that if Indiana can take that type of mindset, I think they're going to be able to pull out game four. So I'm calling for a bounce back performance from the Pacers. I think they'll take game four. And I want to say maybe it's not the first game that's really close in this series, but this series has been incredibly close right now. I mean, this is wow, this series has been decided by it's only 3 points different. Indiana's won by 3 points in this series right now. That's incredibly close. That means each game on average is being decided by 1 point.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I
That
know.
that's how wild of a series it is. Like this is must-see basketball right now. These games have been intense. They have aged me significantly. And man, I mean, with every other night, there is no time to sleep.
I feel like watching it in person is less stressful than watching it at home because you don't have to deal with commentators telling you what you should feel, how you should feel about things, all these
Yeah.
stats being thrown in your ears. You're just kind of watching stuff. But I'm just devastated because Facci, I was going to come on this podcast tonight and tell
Oh,
you
what do you
that
got?
the Indiana Pacers have not lost a game since the field house has been built to the Knicks in the
I
playoffs.
know. I saw that stat. I love that. I was like, what is that true? I was like, yep,
It's
date back to 2000. I was like, that is crazy.
so I just thought about that the other day, and
Sounds
as we were
right.
leaving, I told Ian Begley and Tim Bontemps as we were getting on the elevator about that, and I can't talk. Tim Bontemps goes, "Oh, that's a really fun stat. I'm going to share that on ESPN tonight." I was like, "All right." And then I pull up ESPN, and they're already talking about it. So I don't know if he shared that or if they already had that stat. I'm sure it wasn't that hard to find, but still, I was just going back thinking they have never really had success in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Conseco Fieldhouse, Bankers Life Fieldhouse, whoever was the sponsor at the time. They've never had success in the Fieldhouse. So for them to get the win now, it just stinks that streak is broken.
Yeah, that was.
Everything is just breaking now. All the streaks that we have are
Oh
breaking.
yeah.
The
I don't
Facci
know
streak
what's
is
gonna be
breaking.
left.
Cammy's got a streak. I
Interesting.
think Cammy was at the game tonight. Our friend Cammy.
Oh yes, he was. He was.
And
Yeah.
I think he went to both Hawks games.
Oh wow, he did. Ooh.
I think the Facci curse might be carried over to Cammy. He
That
kept
is,
talking about it too much on the podcast. Like when I come on the podcast, we don't lose.
he was, and now when he's in the arena, we ain't winning. So I
Yeah.
mean, that is not something you want to
Go
catch.
back to Atlanta, Cammy. We
Yeah,
don't know
look, hey,
here.
sometimes it's flu season. I guess it's curse season right now. All right. So you never know what you're going to catch out there. But I do believe he's here for 2 games. So
I saw that.
if I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're going to learn pretty quickly. All right. So
Let's just hope that there's something that comes up and he can't make it to game two or
hey, we need
game four.
everyone's got to do their part. Look, I did my jersey. It just didn't do the job. Did you have the socks on? Please
I
tell
didn't
me
have
yes.
my socks on today.
Oh my God, I'm sick. Oh my God. Oof. Now I
It's
know
been a
why.
long day.
It's been a long day. I don't blame you one bit. Look,
I just got home at around whenever we started recording, 12:15. I have not been home since I left for church this morning at 9:45.
that is a long one. Yeah,
Yeah.
those dogs would have been barking. All right, those socks would have
Yeah.
been begging to be taken off at this
So
hour.
I'll make
So
sure I wear them for
please,
game four.
please, you got to, you got
I'll
to.
have
And
them on for
I might
game
have to
four.
wash this thing. This thing's got a little bit of
Yeah.
loss on it. It's like I can smell it from here. But look, I think at this point, let's just bounce back. Let's take care of business in game four, guys. This wasn't going to be our last loss of the season. I'll tell you that. There's going to be more. I hope there isn't, but there's probably going to be more. So sky ain't falling. Let's just get back to the drawing board. Let's have Rick make some adjustments, and I think that the Pacers need to be able to do things like taking advantage of when Jalen Brunson's not on the court. Like, come on, if this man's going to be dropping 40 in other games, he's going to struggle. You got to be able to be the better team when he's not on the court. They got Towns. You played him well for a couple quarters tonight, and then he went off. Like, what can you do? How do you duplicate it? I'm going to leave all of this to Rick and the coaching staff. I think the players will be better. I think the coaches will be better. I think we will be better.
I agree, Facci. I don't think we should be overly concerned yet,
Not yet.
but I do think that your backs are against the wall a little bit more now,
I think
right?
so.
So it's 7 game series, it's a long series. A lot of people predicted this to be a long series. If it goes six, if it goes seven, we deal with it. But I think Indiana should win this series. I still believe in my pick. I think the reason why so many people picked Indiana from the Pacers side of things is because we've seen how good this team is. This is a team that has been playing some of the hottest basketball
Oh yeah.
in the league, and they reverted to some old habits. They reverted to some old habits of bad play that they just got caught up in the night. So it's a fluke game. If they do it again in game four, then maybe it's not a fluke game. Maybe the Knicks have found something. But I'm going to say right now, this is a game that the Pacers lost more than
I
the
agree
Knicks
with
won.
that. I think that is a good way to put it. Not to discredit the Knicks, but Indiana was just like they just I don't know what team came out of halftime, but it just wasn't that same team. The team that started the fourth quarter, that ain't it. That
A
ain't
team
it.
that thought they already had game three won. That is
Yeah,
a team to me that came out and played in that game. They
I think
played
so.
very calm, cool. They played not to lose.
Yep.
They didn't play
That
to
is
win.
exactly the way to put it. Is just like it's almost like if this was football, you started calling a lot of running plays. All right, let's kill some clock, instead of scoring points. And I feel like that is exactly what happened. Is just little by little, it was just no possession. This possession didn't lead to anything. This possession didn't lead to anything. And all of a sudden, you weren't getting the stops defensively that were leading to buckets. You weren't getting points in transition. None of that stuff. So we know it. We can put a bow on this one. No player awards tonight, as you guys might have forgot. Those only come in wins.
Yes.
So no awards will be given out. We will just lick our wounds and be ready for game four.
Totally agree, Facci. So with that being said, Pacer Nation, I'll be back tomorrow with a game four preview with a guest. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the guys from the group chat. Have not officially confirmed that, but they have done a good job of coming on here. I think it'll be the first time they've come on after a loss. So that's obviously just don't like that. But
Same.
I think that's what we're going to be doing. So with that being said, we'll have that. Facci will be back game four with a recap with S. Barahini from The Athletic. And then I'm hopefully going to join Facci for about 10 minutes to discuss that game after I get home from media stuff. But don't want to keep Facci up too late, as it is late nights for me getting home. And obviously, we both have to work. So with that being said, Pacer Nation, we got to move past this one. Got to get ready for game four. So Facci, if you're hoping the Pacers can bounce back and get a win in game four, hit me with those three words.
Let's go, Pacers.